All right, we are live. What's up, everybody? This is the Horsemen podcast. Josh Romine and Brent Ocker are not with us, so you have me as your host, and I'm happy to be joined by Alex Denise Toner. How you doing, man?
How's it going? Oh man, it's so I can't believe that we're down to two people this week.
This week just got hit hard. Those guys have been
Wait,
working hard and have other jobs, I guess, and so they unfortunately couldn't make this podcast.
yeah, we're
But
just gonna have to have a way more fun without them.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Our
just gonna
ratings,
kill this podcast.
our ratings are going to skyrocket, because those guys are off there. It's just going to be
Yep,
us two.
yep. It's gonna be like they pulled up a random guy to sing because the other guy got laryngitis and that guy got way bigger. That's what's about to happen right now. We're gonna be on ESPN by this week or this time next week. Sorry, Romine and Ocker, you guys are gonna be sitting at home.
Yep. I mean, it's almost like, Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady situation,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Romine got sick, and then we stepped in and blew this podcast away, and now, we're not looking back.
I mean, I don't think that I don't think that I'm off by base by saying that we cut the fat a little bit here. We've definitely got the meat and potatoes right here. Yeah,
Absolutely.
got those carrots out of there.
Yeah, yuck.
Yeah,
I just want that, that big roasty meat.
yeah,
You can
yeah.
just sink your teeth into.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
those potatoes just.
That's all you need. That's all you
Oh
need.
yeah,
Slather it with some gravy.
that's right. So it's great.
Oh boy.
Oh man, all right. Oh, I think that it did happen. I think week 7 came, and
Oh, man.
now so much has happened. Players are falling off the grid. Yeah,
Yeah.
retiring, injuries.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's get into some of that. So
Get it.
we're getting into our fantasy stock. Our stock is up on Jay with Arian Foster's retirement. On top of his back-to-back 200 yards plus yard games, Ajayi is quickly becoming a hot name in fantasy and is now a must-start RB1 in that spot. What do you think about Foster retiring all of a sudden in the midseason? Like, do you think he should have? Do you think he's saying his body's not able to hold up? I mean,
Well, I think that he kind of already proved that. I mean, he barely played a couple of games before he got hurt. And even in training camp, he was hurt most of training camp. So, I mean, this isn't shocking. I think that what's really shocking is the fact that, you got Ajayi that started this season not traveling with the team for that first game. And so he's definitely playing with a chip on his shoulder. Now, I don't think that he's going to be running for 200 yards every game, but I think that now he doesn't have anything around him that is going to take away from what he's doing right now. And I think that's the most important thing when you're looking at especially going in the second half of the season, these guys that kind of come out of the woodwork and things kind of shake themselves out. That Miami situation was really complicated, especially just a couple weeks ago even. Now it seems clear cut.
yeah, absolutely. I think because that was a very muddy situation because you were waiting on Arian Foster to come back, and he had the starting role, then Ji, and then you had was it Damian Williams, right?
Damian Williams was in there. Kenyon Drake was in there at points. Like
Yep.
there were 4 running backs that because I mean we had we have someone in our league that has 3 of those guys, and he was able to drop Arian Foster. Now he's going to be able to run with Ajayi, and that is really what. If you drafted Foster, you probably drafted Ajayi, hopefully, because you definitely didn't want to roll out Foster, by himself. So you're kind of getting that payoff of having to take 2 running backs from the same team, whereas there are other teams that's still a problem. So.
Absolutely. I can agree more. I think that it's now a clear picture, and I think Ajayi is running with a little bit chip on his shoulder, but maybe he also has got his attitude corrected and is now able to run. So we'll see how long he holds up, because he has some knee issues, but it's a good start for him to come out of with 200 plus yard games back to back, and I think he joined an elite group there. I think there was only two other people who had 200 plus yard games with that. I think Ricky Williams was one of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So moving on. So this news just came out and broke today. Stock is down on C.J. Anderson. A bone bruise could leave Anderson sidelined for several weeks, similar to Anderson's emergence in late 2014. Grabbed backup rookie Devontae Booker could help fill the void of a running back need for pushing to your playoffs in your leagues. This has come to some quite shocking news because C.J. Anderson came off a good performance, over 100 yards with a touchdown in Monday night's game, and this is kind of just a shocker to all. And so now Devontae Booker is a name to have, especially in Kubiak's already said if Anderson can't go, Booker's the starter. So I think he is a must grab in leagues if you don't have him.
Yeah,
I think we.
I think that Booker, I think C.J. Anderson, for me, I was always kind of worried about him just because, I didn't know what kind of production we were going to get out of him. And he started off the year really good. And honestly, he did really well in that game last week. But, bone bruise, he seemed fine. Like some of these injuries just seem like they kind of pop up out of nowhere. And, trying to plan for them is terrible, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I feel like we have players that are surprisingly going to IR, like Eddie Lacy. That happened a week or two ago. It's just it's. I feel like a lot of players are going to IR. I don't know if teams are just wanting to save these players, or if they're being cautious, or if it's that severe. Because I just feel like there's been so many IRs this year with players.
Yeah,
some big name players too.
Yeah. Now Booker has been increasing his workload, so I think that this is if he's available on your waiver wire, you're definitely going after him. But I think this is kind of something that's been. I don't think that we were going to lose C.J. Anderson because, like I said, he can still put together a decent game. I think that the injury is what's kind of really pushing this forward, but. They're a run first team, so you've got to be excited if you're a Booker owner or if you were able to snag him off of waiver wires because he could be the C.J. Anderson of 2016 like C.J. Anderson was in 2014. So
I completely agree because if it's a multiple week, several week injury that he's out, Booker could take off with that job, and they are a run first offense. And you saw some flashes up from him on Monday night's game, how he can run well. The Texans defense is a good defense, but they're known for their pass defense. But yeah. I still think it's a good defense that he was able to run on. So I think that you got to be scared if you're a C.J. Anderson owner, but you better hope that you had drafted Booker. Unfortunately, I am one of those people who didn't. So, we'll have to see how that goes. So moving on, the next is our stock is up on Devontae Freeman. So, and this is another injury that kind of popped up, unexpected. Tevin Coleman is not expected to play because he has some hamstring issues, which means Freeman's left as the every down back. He's really got nobody behind him that we have to really worry about. I wonder, so his stock is up. Hopefully he can get the ball running, but I know that sometimes they like to use it as a two-headed monster. So you're hoping that Devontae Freeman can really take on that load with the passing and running and keep that offense balanced because that offense has been just an unstoppable force. Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think that this is kind of similar to the kind of the main the committee situation that we were just talking with Ajayi because you didn't really know who to start because one would go off one week and one would go off the next week. But Freeman at the beginning of last year, when Tevin Coleman went down, that's when he had that big surge in carries and he had a lot of passing down work. So now that he's going to be all, he should be the primary guy. They might bring some guy in for a change of pace, but the fact is that Freeman can catch the ball probably better than their third running back. So I think that he's going to be in for a big workload. It's probably going to be, a really nice play, even in dailies or things like that. So I'd be looking at him.
Yep, absolutely. And then our last one for our fantasy stock. Our stock is down on LaShawn McCoy after a couple bumps in week 6 and in practice that week. McCoy went down in week 7 and had his hamstring injury, and so you're going to see Mike Gillislee and rookie Jonathan Williams be getting a lot of those snaps, and maybe I think I see Gillislee as getting majority of the work, and then with John, then Williams giving him some breathers, unless something crazy happens and Williams, comes out breaking out. But I really see Gillislee as getting majority of that work, or just with Williams rotating in. I did read a report where McCoy said that he's feeling pretty good for week 8. He said this isn't a deep hamstring issue like before, and he said he thinks he can be ready by week 8. But there's a lot of questions around that, and they like to run the ball a lot. So are you thinking that they're going to try to put him on a snap count, or do you think that he's going to?
I mean, honestly, I think that one thing that the Bills have is that, they're in a division with New England, so they're kind of trying to keep up. And I think that's the only reason I could see them trying to get him out there. The other side of that is that, would you rather have one game where you're, kind of maybe can tough it out with your defense and, let him rest up a little bit, then bring him back so that he's ready to go? Honestly, I would rather you sit McCoy, because he got hurt in week 6, came back, got hurt in practice, came back, got hurt week 7, did not come back. So what happens if, he's been, kind of favoring that leg, goes out there and tears something or pulls something and makes it even worse? So I think the Bills are probably going to hold him out. I think that maybe some of that is just talk from McCoy, just kind of so that teams have to still, practice for him. But I think that they're going to run with Gillislee, I think.
It's a hamstring issues, and those things always nag. And you said it perfectly. I mean, he kept re-injuring it, and that's what happens with a hamstring until you rest it. And they could potentially split. They've already beat the Patriots once, and the Bills are bouncing back. I mean, they're 4-3. They're second in that division. So, but they do need to keep up with the Patriots. If they can beat them twice, get them the second loss, I think that would really help them going in as far as a wild card or going forward for anything. But I mean, that the defense has been rolling pretty good, but it's going to go up against a Tom Brady this time.
Yeah,
and ticked off Tom Brady. He's been playing pretty good, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and I mean, because that team has just been decimated by injuries. I mean, you have Watkins, now McCoy, and those are basically the two main guys for that team. So you're looking at, it's like, okay, so the guy that you're looking at now is Tyrod Taylor able to carry this team. And we really haven't seen that yet. I mean, he had the chance, and they blew a lead to the Dolphins. They really should not have lost that game. So we'll have to see what they can come up with to make that team viable without McCoy.
Yep. All right. So that wraps up our fantasy stock. So if you have any of those backups, or start to look at some of those players we mentioned is on the waiver wire, if you have them, like Booker or Gillislee, if you've been hit with some injuries. So I would look at those. Also, I want to let before we move on, I want to say we would love for your feedback and for here, if you have any questions, email us at the4horsemenpod@gmail.com. And also hit us up on Twitter at the 4 Horsemen pod. So moving on to week 8 now. This is the halfway through the NFL season. It's crazy. It's gone by this fast.
Yeah.
I feel it always happens. We get so anxious, we can't wait till football comes, and it comes, and it just goes by so
Yeah,
quick, and
I
it's
know.
just crazy. And what's even crazier right now is you have so many sports going on. Basketball just started,
Yeah,
World Series, and
yeah,
typically with baseball, we're like, once football season starts, baseball is like,
yeah,
eh.
yeah.
But but this World Series seems really, you know,
Well,
um,
especially around here when you think about it, because like in Fort Wayne, we're literally dead center between the two teams. Like I'm
yes.
surprised there wasn't, like a Tony Dungy proclamation type thing. Like, oh, we should just play this in Fort Wayne, and then everybody loses their damn mind that
Oh my
somebody
gosh.
mentions Fort Wayne on television.
Yeah. I mean, I think the last time Fort Wayne got mentioned on television was for the Harry Balls. Uh,
True,
naming
true.
a street, naming a
Yeah,
street after one of our beloved. He was a mayor, correct? Harry
yeah,
Balls.
yeah.
Yep.
Harry Balls.
So,
He's a legend.
but yeah, he is a legend. But it's just cool to see two teams that have been so decimated in baseball, and not won a championship for years and centuries for one
Yeah,
of the teams
yeah,
to
yeah.
be able to play in it. So, but enough about baseball. This is a football podcast. So let's move on here. So let's move on to the Thursday night game, tomorrow's game. Um, we're recording this on a Wednesday, by the way. So Jaguars at Titans. This is a division game. Thursday games have been kind of lousy as far as performances go, but as far as I'll start with the Jaguars. Who's a must start on the Jaguars for you right now? That team hasn't been playing that well, and Blake Bortles is down this year.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, okay, if you drafted Allen Robinson to be a starter, he's either your number one, or if somehow back 8 weeks ago it was lucky, got him and somebody else. You have to roll out Allen Robinson. It's more of a just the fact that you probably don't have anything to replace him with. Jaguars have been extremely disappointing. I mean, across the board. So yeah, I don't know.
That was one of those. That was one of those. That was one of those teams that was like like the Raiders. It's exciting. It's explosive. You
Mhm.
got fantasy. It's a fantasy gold mine. Yeah, they were losing games, but they were just fantasy gold mine just because of garbage time and stuff like that. And I actually, speaking of which, I actually had in one of our MFL leagues, I drafted Allen Robinson and Keenan Allen, my back-to-back wide receivers, and
Yikes.
Keenan Allen's on IR, and Allen Robinson hasn't been put up. So it's been disappointing for that. And I heard somewhere, and I don't even know if it's true, but like they were talking about, do you sit Blake Bortles, not in fantasy, like in real football? They were talking about bringing in Chad Henne, like
Oh my
because
God! Come
he's playing back,
on.
and it's like really. I understand Blake Bortles is not blowing the roof off any doors, but it's seriously he's the better option, and he's at least a capable quarterback. He's still young. He's still
Yeah,
learning.
I
He's still
think that.
developing.
Well, and I think you have to look at that whole team. That whole team is underperforming. They've got a defense that by now should have gelled by now. It should be ready to go. You
Yeah.
have you went out and got Chris Ivory, but your running game is still stagnant. Um, and the big thing about Jacksonville, why they were such good fantasy options, was because of garbage time. Well, they've kind of bridged the gap enough that now they don't have that garbage time. So now they're just kind of an average team. They're not putting it together. And so if you can sit some of these guys, if you can sit a Bortles, or if you can sit an Allen Robinson, you're probably not starting Yeldon or Chris Ivory right now. If you can, then that's great until you see something from them. But more likely than not, you drafted those guys to be your starters.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so, before I move on to the Titans, I do have a question. Do you know how we mentioned the receivers are up and down, like Julio, Antonio Brown? That Julio's kind of like getting a little more consistent, but still he's had his down games. And they're must starts, like Odell
Yeah.
Beckham, like how we talked about last week. Odell Beckham is a must start. Is Allen Robinson a must start because he's the number one receiver or not? Like, is he a must start?
The reason why somebody is a must start is because of the potential, and the potential is definitely there. And I think that
Yes.
that's why you have to still roll him out, because he has the potential. Because, we could say the exact same thing outside of that one game, that Odell Beckham is, maybe should be sat. But the fact is we're not going to, because he can put up those huge, 150, 200-yard games. And so you don't want to have that guy on your bench and have that be the loss that doesn't get you into the playoffs. So you have to roll these guys out. So, yeah. I still think that he's a must start, simply because that's what you drafted him to be.
Okay. And then, so moving over to Titans, who's a guy you have to start in this game against Jacksonville?
I mean, you're definitely starting DeMarco Murray. He's been a freaking beast. I mean,
yeah,
absolutely fantastic. As an Eagles fan, I'm just pissed. I'm so pissed. We kept Ryan Matthews and let DeMarco Murray go. Ridiculous.
Ugh. With Peterson's offense, how they were running Jamal Charles, you don't think they could have done it with DeMarco Murray?
They definitely could have with DeMarco Murray, because he's a million times better than Ryan Matthews. Ryan Matthews is garbage fire. I hate him so much.
All right.
I think that you're also looking at Delaney Walker, pretty consistent option for tight end when he's healthy. He's kind of got an injury bug, but you're still waiting on any wide receiver from the Titans to emerge. You thought that it was going to be Tajay Sharp. He's kind of declined. He had a decent week last week. I think you're just kind of waiting for that offense to, not just be a running offense. Mariota has had a decent couple of weeks. I don't know exactly how he's going to do, because I don't know what Jacksonville team is going to, is this the week that they finally get together and they actually do well? I don't know. So I think that you are probably sitting on Mariota, and unless that, like I said, unless you have to, he was probably drafted as a starter in most cases. So yeah, I think that you're holding off on those wide receivers, though.
Yeah, I think if there's a lot of buys this week, I think if you need to, maybe a decent option against that Jacksonville defense.
That's possible.
Who do you got to win this?
Gosh, I don't even remember. Hold on, I'll let me pull up. I think that I went Tennessee. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to look at. Yeah. No, I went Jacksonville. Oh. Okay.
Well, we're splitting this one. I'm taking the Titans on this one. I think it's at home, so I think it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah.
I think it could be a back and forth game because of the Jacksonville defense, and then the Jacksonville offense is better.
Yeah.
But all right, moving on. So Redskins at Bengals. So with the Redskins, how they've been looking. Is there anybody on there that you got to have playing in your starting lineup right now?
Right now, it's kind of it's maybe kind of a sneaky play, but Jamison Crowder's had a pretty good couple of weeks. He's somebody that isn't a household name by any means, but if you have bye week issues, or because more likely than not, he's sitting on the waiver wire. So he might be a decent play. Running back, I've heard that Matt Jones might be down this week, so it's going to be kind of a timeshare between Thompson and Kelly. So you're probably not going to want to start those guys either. Kirk Cousins, he had a good week last week, but he hasn't been really great in fantasy, except for last week. So yeah, and I don't think against the Cincinnati defense, I think they have a little bit more of a bounce back. They've kind of taken a beating a little bit, but I think that Cousins kind of falls off a little bit this week.
Yeah, I think they'll going to try to pass and pass a lot. And yeah, Jameson has been one of those guys who's kind of been sneaky. I think if you have bye issues, I think that he'd be a good waiver wire pickup. I even think maybe a daily play too, and look for a cheap wide receiver. I think that he might be a good one. So, and then on the other side of the ball, the Bengals, AJ Green is always money.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's been pretty consistent, versus last year where he had his high highs and low lows. But he's been pretty decent this year. other than that, your Giovanni and Jeremy Hill timeshare on that. You don't know what Jeremy Hill's going to. You don't know what Jeremy Hill's going to show up with that. I think Dalton would be a good buy reliever for this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is as far as any of those teams. I mean, we mentioned Jameson, I guess, already, but I didn't know if anybody on the Bengals that you're looking out for. I think Tyler Eifert could make anything of it. Do you think?
I don't know. I need to see something from Tyler Eifert. Last year was very touchdown dependent. So, you've got to see something from him, I think, to start him. The thing is that both teams kind of there's only a couple of big, starters. You're definitely starting Green. Outside of that, you could make a case for maybe Vernon Davis if Reed is probably going to be out again. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, there's no surefire, yes, absolutely start. You're going to be starting these guys if you absolutely have to.
Yep. I think you're absolutely right with that. So who do you got in this game?
Yeah, I got Cincinnati in this game. I think that they kind of bust them up a little bit.
Yep. I do as well. Is that a sweep technically with just us two? I don't know.
I don't know if you can do a sweep. I don't know.
But yeah, so both of you and I take the Bengals on that. So moving on to the Chiefs at the Colts. By the way, the Redskins Bengals these are 1 p.m. games. I mean, I don't know which Colts is going to show up.
What do you think as a Colts fan? What do you think about if Moncrief comes back? Or are you thinking that he's going to be held out a little bit longer?
I think they need him out there. I was really hoping Dorsett would kind of step up and fill that role, but he's just been kind of that hit or miss where if they can connect on that long ball, then I think he's good. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just been T.Y. Hilton and Doyle. Not even Dwayne Allen when he was in there was doing that great. He would always kind of take me off because he was dropping the balls. But anyways, those are two guys in Frank Gore, who's been kind of consistent as it goes, and you're obviously starting Andrew Luck with that, but they're going against that Chiefs defense, which is it's a decent defense to go against. But I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like because of Kansas City, that offense.
Well, I think that the biggest problem that you have to factor into anytime you start Indianapolis players right now is how is that line going to be? They've started 5 different combinations at this point. So what are we going to see? Now, it has been nice that Gore has been going the last couple of weeks. It's kind of helped out, I think, a little bit. But yeah, you're definitely starting T.Y. You're definitely starting Luck. I have him on my team, so it's probably more of a homer pick, but I do like Doyle. I think that he's definitely the best tight end on that team. So, if you're hurting at tight end, then he's a decent player. He was supposed to be who I started in our Pride-tastic League. I picked him up. And Vanderjack, Vinatieri, and I forgot to put them in, but I still ended up winning. So I had 30 points sitting on my bench that should have been in there, but yeah, I mean, and KC, I think you're rolling out Ware. I don't think you're rolling out anybody else though. Maybe Macklin. I guess
this is another thing where it's if you're in need, injuries, or you're looking at buys. I think that you may look at Smith and Macklin, but man, where's Kelsey been?
I don't know. He disappeared.
Literally, does he even exist anymore? I have not even heard this name.
I don't know. I know the first week he did really well. And then all of a sudden, he just dropped off, and I'm not sure what is going on. I'm looking up in our league where he's sitting at.
It's is he even injured? Because I haven't heard anything about him. He's like a ghost. He's just disappeared. It's lost.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, after their bye is when things kind of took a downward in week 5 because he's in our league. which is kind of a blown up league. He is number 14 tight end wise, which is not where you wanted him. That's not what you drafted him to be.
Yeah, you did not draft him to be a number 14. You drafted him to be a top 5 tight end.
Yeah, and I mean, in contrast, the number 3 tight end in our league is Gronk, and he missed the first 3 weeks. So, I mean, it's tough. It's tough if you have Kelsey because he's only put up 20 points once all season. And I think that you were kind of thinking with that, with just Macklin, you were hoping that 20 points was going to be kind of his norm. And, not really doing what you need.
Yeah, at least scoring high, it would be the norm for him. Yeah. So who do you got in this game?
I've got Kansas City. Not because I hate Indianapolis in this matchup, because I think that Indianapolis' offense is still way better than KC. I think that just how bad Indianapolis is on all other facets just end up kind of weighing out that I think that KC might end up pulling out a victory in this one.
I think Indianapolis's pass defense is better than the best part of that defense. I think Ware could have a decent game with running it, but I'm going to take the Colts. So I'm going to split on that. So moving on, going to it may be a dreadful game is the Cardinals versus the Panthers. Yeah. Two teams that were expected to be possible Super Bowl contenders. With Panthers making to Super Bowl last year and the Cardinals being going deep into the playoffs. They had high hopes coming in this year, and they both have not produced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure.
It feels like the Cardinals. You have David Johnson, who really we had a small sample size to start with last year, but has really filled out the expectations that everybody's expecting him to be. So he's a must starter. You have Fitzgerald on there. Is there anybody else that I'm looking? Maybe is there a sneaky daily play, a sneaky people waiver wire that you may be able to pick up?
I will say that I think the last 2 games, Michael Floyd has had, and of course Romine's not on this podcast that I'm actually talking about Michael Floyd, but Michael Floyd he's not getting the volume that you would assume. I mean, we've been kind of waiting for him to come along for a few years now. And it's either injury or just poor play. And really it's been poor play, but the last couple of weeks he's gotten a touchdown. So I think that, it's something to keep an eye on. But, I think that, I don't know. I have a hard time starting Michael Floyd because he's just but maybe in a daily if you
maybe in a daily. But I don't even think I want to start him in daily. But I think it's if you're desperate. I just think if you're desperate and he's on the waiver wire, add him, and play him. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, because that Panthers secondary is horrific, and so I think you can pass on. They're young, and if it's the Carson Palmer we've seen of late, then that's going to be scary. But if he's the actual Carson Palmer, I think that he's meant to be. Mm-hmm. I think he has a big day then, and I think that wide receiving core can be good. The Panthers side of things, man, you were really expecting that going into this year that offense was going to be good. Kelvin Benjamin back, that Cam will have his wide receiver and everything, but they have not been able to get things going. I think Cam comes back this game, and I think that you start him. I think you start Benjamin, Stewart if your running backs are bye or injury.
He came back and did all right. I'm not sure. Can't remember what he did last week, but I don't know.
They were on bye last week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, he did halfway decent last week. But the week before he did halfway decent. So you're probably rolling out Stewart. You're probably not loving it.
No,
because he's not really like a a sexy play.
He's not a sexy play, but I mean, he's maybe one of those guys who at least will get you a baseline that you know that you can need to hit. If you're hurting for running backs,
I think you would kill for Jonathan Stewart this week.
That is for sure. I would kill for Jonathan Stewart. That's how bad my running back situation has been. After a trade, buys, and injury.
That is just like it lined up really bad for you.
it was a perfect storm this week. Before I made that trade, just to let you guys know, in one of our leagues, I had to trade away Matt Forte and Matt Jones for Mike Evans. And I thought, I'd be fine. I got enough running backs to get me by, and all that stuff hit at once. It was just a perfect storm. So,
yeah, I mean, I lose next week. I lose whatever Chicago running back. Then I also lose David Johnson. So I'm going to have to roll out Booker and Murray, which that's fine. But then Smallwood, maybe. Do I double up on Tennessee running backs? Oh gosh, I don't even want to think about it right now. It's terrible.
Yes, that is a rough situation. I think that most fantasy owners are feeling the running back situation this year, because they've drafted some of those guys pretty high: Adrian Peterson, Jamal Charles.
Yeah.
Even Lamar Miller's not putting up the numbers where you probably drafted him at, and so it's been a little disappointing for running backs, I think, this year. But I think that. So,
unless you're a David Johnson owner,
that is true. If you drafted him,
he's been a stud.
Man, he's looking good in all phases of the game.
Yeah.
So let's go on. Who do you have in this game?
I got Arizona. I just think that when it comes down, I think that Arizona has a better defense. I think they have a better offense. And I just think that right now Carolina is kind of in a tailspin. They're in that funk, that hangover of Super Bowl loss. So I definitely think that it's going to be Arizona taking it.
Well, we're splitting this one because I'm taking the Panthers. I think that after that bye, they regrouped themselves. I think that Cam comes out and just lights that defense up. I think that Cardinals, after they got a tie last week, and I think that the Panthers are going to come out and really try to show people that they are still a good team. So moving on to what could be a high-scoring game, I think. The Raiders versus the Buccaneers. Two decent offenses that have been producing fairly well, but their defenses has just been stinking. With the Raiders, do you even know what wide receiver to start? But you have to start Amari Cooper, right?
Yeah, you have to start Amari Cooper. I think that if you have Crabtree, I think that you're still starting him because he has been moderately consistent. He hasn't been the Amari Cooper consistent. Cooper started off pretty slow, but I think he's kind of stepped it up. But fantasy point wise, they're kind of similar because Crabtree is kind of vulturing a lot of those touchdowns. So I think that you're still probably rolling both of those guys out. You have to be a little concerned about what to do with Murray because Latavius Murray came back, had a decent game, but not amazing. And that running game just isn't really
saved them.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot going on with that running game, no matter who they've put in. So you're probably, if you can, you want to sit Murray until either he catches on or something happens with that running game.
Yep, agree with you on that. That Raiders offense though is looking pretty good. Derek Carr seems to be the real deal. And continues to improve. Switching on upside to the Buccaneers, you have your man Mike Evans, and who's just been killing it, and I think he's been one of the most consistent wide receivers. To be honest with you, he's not doing huge numbers, but he's consistently getting you the numbers you need for a wide receiver of that stature. So he's a good play on this one. I like him in a daily, actually. He's a little bit expensive, but going against that defense, I think that he could be a good play, and possibly Jameis Winston as well in a daily. If you're in anything, he's going to be a good play if you have him this week. Running backs with this, Jaquiz Rodgers, I think
Jaquiz,
he's been running like a stud. Doug Martin, I think I heard reports were talking about they're going to be cautious with him.
Especially if your running back is running for 150 yards.
Yes. But there was also a new guy in town by the last name of Barber, who ran for 84 yards, and Peyton Barber ran for 84 yards and a touchdown on top of a 155-yard rush from Jaquiz Rodgers.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to be RBBC, or do you think it's just going to be all Jaquiz?
I think that they're still. I mean, Jaquiz had 26 touches. So I mean, and the time before that, or they had a bye, but their last game, he had 30 touches. So I mean, he's not losing a lot. So I think that they're going to keep running with Jaquiz as long as he's healthy and Martin is out. Mm-hmm. So by all means, if you got him, roll him out as long as you can, because Jaquiz Rodgers is a guy that you picked up probably off of a desperation, and so you're hoping to get as much as you possibly can out of him. It probably is only going to be a couple more weeks, so just run him.
Yep. I think you just have to just put him in right now. You got to play the hot hand, and of any of the running backs right now, he looks good. And from what I've watched of a couple games with the Buccaneers, they're wanting to run the ball, and they want to run. Yeah. They want to initiate that run, and they'll start the game off with just running back to back to back, and it's working for them. They're being efficient with it. They're driving down the field, and so it's really balancing out their offense a lot, I think. So that's got to be a good sign.
They're kind of trying to establish the run. I've heard this on a few different things. They're trying to establish the run so that I just lost it. Oh, Jameis Winston can kind of settle in and produce. And he's had a few good games, had a few really poor games. So you can it kind of coincides with how well the running game's going, honestly. So I think that Jameis Winston's kind of a risky play just because of how up and down he's been. Mm-hmm. But if they can keep that running game going, I think that he'll do fine as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else that pops out from this game besides? I mean, I really think this is going to be a high-scoring game because of those defenses and those offenses can be powerful. So
yeah,
when they get rolling, I should say. So who do you got in this game?
That's a good question. I have looks like Oakland. I got Oakland on this one.
Yep, me too. I'm taking the Raiders as well. I think they're going to continue to dominate, and I think they're going to continue to win with that. So moving on to the Seahawks versus the Saints. I feel like the Seahawks have just been able to shut down people's offense, mm-hmm. And not have people score on them, but yet then I don't feel like their offense can score.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like it's a stagnant where it's back to just their defense winning games for them.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with Russell Wilson, why he has not been producing.
I think it's just, I think that he's hurt and he probably should have taken some more time off mm-hmm. than what he has. I mean, they're still winning games, so you can't really hold it against them. But like you said, it's really their defense that's winning games. So I don't know. It's like I don't like anybody that much, but against New Orleans, maybe I should. Like, maybe you want to roll out Kristen Michael. Maybe you want to put out Doug Baldwin. Jimmy Graham has been, a decent start for quite a few weeks now, so I would probably still roll him out. As far as on the other side of the ball, though, man, other than Drew Brees, I don't know what I want.
Yeah.
Because Cooks is so like, he will have that huge game and then he disappears for 2 or 3 weeks. So maybe he's almost due, because that was a couple of weeks ago. So maybe it's time for him to have a big game. I don't know, but New Orleans is a very confusing team, because not only is their defense absolutely dreadful, but their offense is very good this year.
Yeah. Yeah, just to kind of comparison between the two quarterbacks of how it's going is Russell Wilson has 1,500 yards, Drew Brees has 2,100, and versus and then Drew Brees also has 17 touchdowns compared to Russell Wilson's 5. So there's, you can kind of see the stark difference between the two quarterback plays, and where you saw Russell Wilson just scoring touchdowns last year versus this year. So it, just like you said, I think an injury, and it's really hindering his play. And so I know people drafted Russell Wilson high. They're really expecting big things out of him. So they're not in that, but they're not getting it from him.
Well, you definitely drafted him to be a 4,000-yard passer. He's on pace basically for just a little over 3,000. That's game manager all over the place. That's Alex Smith type numbers. Like that's the kind of stuff that you don't want to see. If you have a starting quarterback, you want him to be over 3,500 yards, in my opinion, because that's when you start getting to those guys that can have those big games.
Yes.
And if you have a guy that's going to be putting up 3,000 yards right around, that's not good.
Oh no,
that's not what you want from your starting quarterback. You've probably moved on at this point from Russell Wilson, I would assume.
I'd hope so, unless they turn that thing around.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been, you were expecting big things out of Lockett too. You haven't seen anything out of him.
He's been a big disappointment.
Yep. Hopefully if you drafted Rawls, you drafted Christian Michael, or not one of the other 5 running backs that they had. So I heard today they gave up on CJ Spiller. So
they let him go?
I believe so.
That makes sense, because Procise is finally kind of in. He had a touchdown last week, I think.
Yeah, he was involved in the passing game on that. So, but yeah, I think that it's going to be tough to start any Saints players. Maybe, I mean, running back, like I said, since it's so desperate, Mark Ingram, you're starting. But this could be one of those games. It's at Seattle, so it's going to be tough on the Saints. Drew Brees, anytime he's not away from home, he could throw a stinker of a game.
Yeah, he sure can.
He's been money at home all the time, but he's at Seattle, where they used to be basically undefeated.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a tough place to go into that environment and win. So, who do you got on this one?
I probably foolishly took New Orleans on this one. I'm not feeling good about that pick.
After discussing that, I'm taking the Seahawks on that.
You're probably right. I'm just gonna stick with what I sent him yesterday, but I'm not feeling good about that pick at all.
I mean, not to say that the Saints couldn't do it. Drew Brees has pulled more out of his, but just going up to Seattle in that house, it's going to be pretty tough. So I'm taking Seattle on that. So moving on to the games, Lions at the Texans, the Brock Lobster.
Okay, let's talk about how bad Brock Osweiler is. He is the worst quarterback I've ever seen start more than a few games and be a starter to start the season. Like, he is so incredibly bad that I would rather have Cody Kessler on my team than Brock Osweiler. I would rather have, honestly, name a quarterback, because Brock Osweiler is the worst quarterback in the league. I mean, he's just oh my God.
I heard the other day he's the poor man's Kirk Cousins.
That's not good. But the thing is that Kirk Cousins doesn't have $32 million guaranteed. Did you watch that game?
Yes.
So did you hear what they said? They said that they did not even bring in Osweiler. They just signed him sight unseen.
Yep.
That is a horrible move. $72 million for a guy you don't even work out.
I don't know how they could do something like that. I understand he's a tall guy. He may look the part of a quarterback, but he is not a quarterback. But I also heard somebody trying to kind of defend him that they're talking about the scheme and what they're trying to. They're not really opening up things to, like the plays that they're running, and with the receivers and stuff. It's not getting the receivers aren't breaking away from the coverage, and so he's having to throw in a lot of tight coverages and stuff. They're not being creative with their plays to get the receivers open for him. They said that.
I understand that, but if you watch what he does, he locks in on a receiver and just throws the ball. He throws the ball to Hopkins when Hopkins has no business getting thrown the ball. Like, it is mind-boggling.
And his passes are inaccurate with that. He's making bad reads. He's not going, and he's checking down. What he's doing. He's checking down a lot.
All the time.
And so when I see a quarterback check down a lot, that just tells me that they can't really read the coverages right, or they're not reading the defense very well with that. So
the problem is that you want to roll out Lamar Miller because you drafted him to be your starter. The problem is that team's offense is so bad, you don't know if you can get Lamar Miller going. You've got DeAndre Hopkins. You definitely drafted him to be your number one wide receiver. And even a guy like Will Fuller, who could be a fantastic wide receiver. We've seen it from him. And the fact is that they have such a bad quarterback that it's making this team look way worse than it is, because this team, the defense is decent, but they're on the field constantly. You go into the fourth quarter and your quarterback is thrown for 64 yards.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what? I mean, the only reason that he ended up with more than 100 was because of garbage time.
Yeah.
So in actual game, he was at 64 yards before things got out of hand. I mean, I know it's against Denver, but still. Like, God.
Yeah.
Terrible.
It is a terrible. I did like you sent a picture to a group of us guys of a Halloween costume, which was a Brock Osweiler costume, basically a trash can with the number 13 on it, on his trash can.
But did you see what the bid was?
It was like 42 trillion or something like that.
No. It was the actual buy it now price on eBay was $72 million. Like, it was his actual contract number.
I didn't even catch that. That's awesome. That is a good one.
Man. Like, the signs that were out, like $72 million mistake and stuff like that is crazy. Like, they've turned on him so quickly. I mean, he just looks like such a pretty boy that it's like, yeah, I could throw the football. And he wasn't even that good in Denver last year. So what makes you think that $72 million is a good idea?
They'd rather go with a broken down guy who retired than play Brock Osweiler.
Yeah.
So and they didn't want to. They knew what they wouldn't pay him. They weren't going more. They knew what they had in them. But apparently,
if the Texans could get Brian Hoyer, even with his non-throwing hand wrapped up in a club, they would win more games with a broken Brian Hoyer than they would with Brock Osweiler. Worst quarterback in maybe decades. I don't know. He's so bad.
He is bad. So who do you have in this game then?
Oh gosh. Who are they playing? We've only talked about Houston.
The Lions.
Oh, the Lions. Well, okay, real quick. You're definitely rolling out Marvin Jones. You're definitely rolling out Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's an absolute fantastic. He's been one of the best quarterbacks since Jim Bob Cooter took over last year. So you're definitely looking at that. Running game-wise, if you want to grab a couple of touchdowns, Zach Zenner's out there. Maybe he'll get a touchdown, but that running game's garbage.
Yeah.
But I would assume that I picked Detroit. Yeah, I went Detroit.
I actually went the Texans.
Woo!
I think that they're going to be playing.
Love that Brock lobster. With some butter on
it. Detroit's defense is not that good, but the Texans defense is, and the passing defense is good. I think that I think they'll try to I think they're going to try changing something up, and after having a horrible display on Monday Night Football, I think they're going to try doing something. I don't know. I just think Texans just take this one. I could be, possible. But this is my Saint pick where I could be wrong, and I probably am wrong.
Well, the Lions also have one big thing against them, and that's Jim Caldwell is the worst coach. Maybe ever. So it could be the worst quarterback versus the worst coach.
Yeah.
I think that I've got a friend that's a Lions fan, and I mean he is just. I mean he's pretty much sad all the time, but they traded away because they have really bad luck with their second round picks. Mikel LaShore, Titus Young. I honestly I can't even remember this guy. It's like Von Brockman or something weird like that. They traded this guy was drafted in the second round, I think 2 years ago. They just traded him to the Patriots, so he's going to end up being an All-Pro for a 6th round pick. And with that player, they also get or New England also gets a 7th round pick. So they basically just gave away a 2nd round pick from 2 years ago. Like they're just not very good at drafting.
No,
they're just not. But that's a Lions.
Yeah. Moving on to the Patriots at the Bills. Now, we kind of touched on this at the beginning of the show, so I want to be quick about this. So, really, is there anything that sticks out to you about this game? I mean, really, on the Bills side, since McCoy's hurt, I mean, really, is there anybody else on there that you want to play or start?
God. No. I picked,
moving on.
I picked Buffalo because I have an allegiance, but this is just it has all the makings of a terrible game.
Yeah.
For Buffalo. I mean, you lose your best player on offense, and you're hoping that the defense, which has been pretty good after they fell apart last week. But for the most part, after week 2, they've been pretty good. I just don't think they're going to hold up against Tom Brady and Gronk. I think that they're just going to get ripped apart by those guys. They got a decent running game with Blount and throwing the passes out of the backfield with White. But even still with New England, you're probably only rolling out a couple of guys because they're just outside of Gronk and Brady and maybe Edelman. There's not a lot of like consistency. Maybe Martavius Bryant, Bennett. You're probably going to want to roll him out too because he's more of a touchdown guy. But yeah, fantasy wise, I don't think this is a great game.
Yeah.
Not a lot to choose from. There's not even really a flyer I would take on anybody. Yeah. I'm starting Patriots players. I'm probably not starting many Bills players.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think you just hit it on the head. I mean, it's kind of just without McCoy, it's really nobody on the Bills you'd want. I mean, Sam Watkins is not there. Tyler Taylor has not been lighting it up like he was last year. So
yeah,
he
doesn't have Watkins. He only has Robert Woods. So yeah.
I'm taking the Patriots in this one.
I understand why you would. I should have. I should, but I'm going to be a homer for my mom. So, and my dad's a Patriots fan, but screw that crap. I'm not going to side with cheaters. Gross.
How can you even claim him if he's a Patriots fan?
Well, here's the worst part. He's a Colts and a Patriots fan. Now, first off,
is he really a football fan?
No, I'm not even claiming that. I mean, I remember that one year that they were ridiculous. They almost went undefeated, and I was like, okay, outside of Brady and Moss, name me a player. Couldn't do it. Now, I will say he has been a fan my entire life of both teams. I don't know why, because they used to be in the same division. So that was just dumb to start. Like, even before the big rivalry between Brady and Peyton, it was a dumb thing because they used to be in the same division. But yeah, I have no allegiance to my dad's favorite teams. My mom went through 4 Super Bowl losses. I've got to give it to her a little bit.
Oh, man. Yeah, you got to. Moving on to the Jets Browns. Yuck.
Yuck.
This is bottom of the barrel. Ugh.
Oh,
I don't even want to talk about this.
Well, okay. Here, now
just crap pile on top of crap.
Yeah. Now there is a slightly interesting aspect. Whatever McCown brother is on the Browns. Was it Luke? Is it Josh? No, it's Josh. Josh. I always Josh McCown might be back. Cody Kessler is hurt, so if McCown is back, maybe Barnage gets in there.
You don't think they're going to roll out Kevin Hogan to play quarterback?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, this is a terrible team. I mean, like, if you have to start 5 quarterbacks in a season, no, no thanks. And the Jets are no better. They're like, okay, Geno Smith is our guy. Then Geno Smith goes out for the season, and now you're back with Fitzpatrick.
And who
I don't know.
Fitzpatrick's bitching that nobody likes him over there. I say roll out. He's like the coaches don't believe in me. The GM doesn't believe in me. The owner doesn't believe in me. So I just got to go out there and just.
Well, don't throw 6 picks in a game, Fitz. Like, it's that easy.
Up to that point, he threw 11 picks in the games. It's like crazy. That's why they don't believe in you.
Yeah,
because you're throwing shit.
Well, yeah, and I mean the thing is that you look at I'm not sure if last week, but a couple weeks ago, the second was Winston throwing picks. That makes sense. He's a second-year guy. Fitzpatrick has been around. He has all of the chemistry with his team, but that team is just not functioning. And I think you were about to bring it up. You've got Bryce Petty and Christian Hackenberg. Let's see what the hell they have.
Yes.
Todd Bowles said that they kept four quarterbacks for a reason. He wasn't going to tell anybody why. Well, show us then.
Yeah.
Because
he doesn't know how to develop a quarterback, so he just wants to throw it out there.
No. He's the defensive backs coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that has to do with coaching with that one. But,
I mean, do you think – okay, with what they have on offense, do you really think that if Christian Hackenberg is a quality quarterback and ever will be in the league, that this isn't a great opportunity to put him in with great players? I mean, I understand that that we're that Decker went down, but I still think that there's
they've got talent around that team. They've got Forte out there. We have Brandon Marshall, and then they also have that new emerging wide receiver. I can't even pronounce his name.
Quincy Anuanu.
Thank you. Whatever. I think that he's got that. Why not see what he has?
Yeah.
I mean, you draft him in the second round. They drafted both guys in the second round, and they have not even done anything with them.
Mm-hmm.
Try something at least. You're at 1-5, so just do something about it. So, who do you have in this game?
I've got Jets. Browns.
I'm actually taking the Browns.
Really?
I don't know why. I just every week I feel
you're hoping for Hogan.
I am. I'm really rooting for them. I'm just like, they're supposed to be an exciting team.
Yeah. This has been an unfortunate turn of events because they were kind of the Oakland or the Jacksonville of this year.
Yeah, they're looking like they could be a sexy team and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then just been out of control with injuries. So
yeah.
All right, moving on. So going to the 4:00 games, we have the Chargers at the Broncos, a rematch in the division. Trevor Siemian is back at the helm for the Broncos. And we have a new running back, possibly Devontae Booker. Do you think that they're going to lean on the wide receivers? I mean, the passing game.
I don't know. I think they're still going to run the ball. I think they're confident with Booker. They've been running him quite a bit the last few weeks, and I think that he's ready to go. So I think they're going to run the ball early, see what they got. If things don't work out, I think maybe they'll go to the air a little bit more. But I think that Simeon is better when they have a good running game going. So yes. I think that they're definitely – but I still think, Demarius and Emmanuel Sanders are worth a play for sure.
Absolutely. I think that it's crazy, even though because that was one thing going into this year that was concerning me, at least being a Demarius Thomas owner. But I know it was a big concern was, how was that going to play out? What kind of quarterback play we were going to get? Now we got horrible play from last year, but they were still able to produce. So yeah. But it was still you had question marks, and Demarius Thomas's stock went down, and so but they've been actually doing fairly decent. It's nothing like that's just blowing you out of the water or anything, but they're putting up points, and they're being a good wide receiver for you. So I think a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type thing for them, with upsides. Both have upsides of being wide receiver 1s when some games, Brock throws for over 400 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Charger side of the ball, what are you thinking about Melvin Gordon? He came out with just scoring touchdowns, and he's still getting those touchdowns.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of talks about, he's getting a lot of volume and getting touchdowns, but can't really run the ball.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that they've just had so many injuries. You don't have, your top guys, going even further back, you had Stevie Johnson hurt himself early in off season, which, he's a big presence. And then Keenan Allen going down, and then you've got, you're really all of the passing work, Danny Woodhead as well. All the passing work is leaning on, Travis Benjamin. He's like 5'7". I mean, that's a lot, So I think that you look at last year, no touchdowns, nothing yardage wise either. This year, it's the touchdowns. I think that when they get a better team going, I think that he will get going a little bit better.
I almost starting to think that, as good as Phillip Rivers is, I think that as long as he's there, they're never going to win a Super Bowl. I feel like it's just like it's a team that's always just like, all right, they've got the quarterback, they've got the talent, they're going to make that next step, and it's just they never do.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
I don't know. I think he may be the curse there.
It could be.
He's the only one that's consistent, but yet he's the only one that hasn't been able to do anything.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
He may be bad luck because every year it seems like he just has dreadful injuries all the time to that team. So
yeah, it is weird. They're a team that should be good but just isn't.
Yeah, and I think it just is it injuries? Is it? I mean, they've gone through so many coaches, but I feel like every year they have so many injuries to the team. Yeah. It just decimates them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is weird. It is weird.
All right, so who do you have in that game then?
And we start talking, and then I just completely hate my picks. But I went San Diego. I'm looking for Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea why I put San Diego.
To be honest with you, this was actually one of those games I could see where the Chargers is going to be kind of like a trap game. Yeah. Division game. They could have won last time they faced them. They had a chance to win, and I could see Phillip Rivers is a competitive guy that could be where they can get him. But this is at Denver, so I'm actually taking the Broncos on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to what could be another high power game, the Packers versus the Falcons. Two offenses, one that you love seeing right now, one that you're just wanting to get back to the glory days of that offense. Mm-hmm. We kind of mentioned at the beginning of the podcast with the fantasy stock with Devontae Freeman and everything like that. So, and you guys roll out Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Devontae Freeman. Other than that, there's really nobody else you want to start on that team.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of the ball, you're looking you have to start Aaron Rodgers, even though Aaron Rodgers hasn't been Aaron Rodgers. Um, you're is Jordy a start?
I don't know.
He has been
Honestly,
irrelevant.
yeah. I completely understand. You definitely, had him probably as your wide receiver 2, I'm betting. After those top tier guys were gone.
Yep, and with the injury gone
Yeah,
down.
yeah, exactly. So, you were hoping that he was going to return back to that wide receiver 1. Honestly, other players are showing up. Last week we had Devontae Adams. You really, if and I'm just kicking myself constantly, but Ty Montgomery now listed as a running back and a wide receiver, that should be huge if you can place him in as a wide receiver, but he's going to be a running back. But I'm just going to go out and say, yeah, I almost want to bench Jordy. I mean, I know that like that whole thing where, do you bench those guys that can blow up? And it's like, no, you don't. But this has been a bad offense for, we're going on a year and a half now.
Yeah,
it's not just Jordy Nelson. Like, it's not just him.
No, and any week it could be one of those guys. You've got 4 guys to choose from: Montgomery, Adams, Cobb, and Nelson. So, and typically your go-to guys have been Cobb and Nelson. Which Cobb, I mean, he's been all right, but I think
he's wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4.
Yeah, and he's got wide receiver 2 upside, and he's the backup running back, so I mean he could play him like that too. Sure. I mean he's not getting listed, but he did get some rushes last week, which really kind of drove up his fantasy points. So, I really think if you're desperate this week, like we keep saying in this podcast, because I mean this is a week that's got a lot of buys, you play Jordy. But I think if you have other options there that you can afford to sit Jordy, I think do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until you see something from Jordy, he's one of those guys that he isn't producing. So move on from him.
I agree.
Who do you got from this?
I got Green Bay in this. I just think that their defense will kind of shut down, and Atlanta seems like they're doing their kind of shaky second half fall apart thing to me. I don't know.
I actually taken those Falcons on this one. This is one of those games where it's like I can see the Packers pulling this one out, because the Packers can do that.
Yeah.
But I also see that the Falcons can just be able to put up those points with them. So
yeah. Absolutely.
One thing that I would say is Green Bay's defense has been somewhat okay. I know they had injuries with their DBs, but once they got them back, I think they're great against the run.
Yeah.
If you notice, they're one of the top 5s in against the run. So if you need a defense, maybe look for them. But they've been a sneaky defense that nobody's really been talking about. I mean, you have your Minnesota, you have your Denver. So, but I think they've been doing decent, especially against the run. But they've been also injured at the secondary. So, all right, moving on to the Sunday night game. This is a big game, especially for you. The Cowboys at the Eagles.
I'm gonna tell you. I'm just gonna interrupt and say you are not starting any Eagles players until something happens. I'm forced to this week, and I don't like it at all.
Not even Carson Wentz.
He started out. I think it was like 2 for 5 with 2 picks. That's how he started. I mean, it has been a fall off in the last few weeks. So, there's not a wide receiver. There's definitely not a running back. Maybe Ertz. But honestly, I think that this team is kind of showing how young it is. I think this team is kind of like maybe soaked in the hype a little bit too much because they're just not putting things together. Where on the opposite side, you've got, some good young players for Dallas, which makes me want to throw up. But
come on, Dak attack.
Ugh,
come on, baby. Come on.
I mean,
I'm starting them this week because I have to. But I have to.
Yeah.
Because of buys. But I'm actually kind of scared because on the that Eagles defense is pretty good, and that's one highlight. And I think that's why the Eagles have been pretty good, pretty consistent, pretty good this year. Is just because that defenses have been held together. I mean, they're a legit defense, just like we were saying with the Packers. But I think they're better than the Packers defense.
Mhm.
You know, so
They
yeah.
have really good special teams as well.
Yes.
So I think that's another. I mean, they've had two touchdowns in the last 2 weeks on special teams. And that's basically where their touchdowns are coming from, their defense and their special teams. So they're definitely, if there's a defense to roll out, especially against a young quarterback with Dak Prescott, but you're definitely rolling out Elliott, because if Matt Jones can run for over 100 yards against the Eagles, I think that Elliott can run for 100 yards against the Eagles.
Elliott started off real slow, and we were questioning him and his yards after contact, but he has just blown up.
Yeah,
and I think it's a lot of combinations. The running, the lineman up front. It's the best offensive line we see. So running behind there, do it. But he's taken off and really run well. He's one of the leading rushers in the game. So I think, you got to start Ezekiel. I think if like you're in a situation like I am, you start Dak. But who else would you start? I mean,
maybe Cole Beasley. But that's kind of a, if you need him. Outside of that, not a lot of fantasy starters, I think, in this game.
No, I think you're right on this. It's a big divisional game, though. Not fantasy wise, but as far as NFL wise, so it's a big divisional game, and I think whoever wins this, I think is going to be sitting on top of the division, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So it's a big game like that. So it'll be a lot on the line, and maybe the pressures are going to get to the rookie quarterbacks. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our last and final game, the Monday night game.
Wait, who did you pick?
I actually picked the Cowboys.
All right. I mean, we already know who I picked.
Yeah.
I went Cowboys. No.
I think I'd pick that just to pick against you. So, all right, Vikings versus the Bears. Going from one great team to one horrible team.
Both these teams aren't really exciting. Like
on the offensive side of the ball, no.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the defense. I think the defenses are more exciting than anything. And you've got. I think Vikings defense is a must start. I think that's what I got.
Oh my gosh! I mean, what's weird is you went from, Brian Hoyer is doing so well. We don't need to start Cutler. Hearing trade talks about them shipping him off to Miami, things like that. And I mean, now you've got to be praying that they get Cutler back, because Matt Barkley is awful.
Oh, he is awful. Yes.
He is so bad.
And as much as people want to hate on Jay Cutler is probably one of the best quarterbacks they've had in years. And, he did decent in Cates' offense. But I just think it's how he carries himself. He gets a lot of flack for it, but
yeah. Smoking Jay.
he likes to gamble. He likes to just to sling the ball, and he in that it could come out really great or it can come out really horrible, as you can see that before. So, but they had a good relief, and I think that Chicago really liked that break with Hoyer in there. But
and we were talking that honestly, I would sit your Chicago running backs. Right now, if Langford comes back, it looks like there's a 3 running back committee right now. So I'd wait for that to shake out and see what is going on there, and sit him if you can.
What about, since Cutler's coming back, you starting Alshon?
Yeah. I mean, if Cutler is playing in this game, I don't know if he is or not, but if Cutler is playing in this game, probably I would still start Jeffrey. But if Matt Barkley's in, no.
Starting no Bears. So
just don't start your Bears.
I'm really thinking on the other side, Diggs is going to have a good game going against that Bears defense. I really think that passing game, which started out hot, has really diminished because of that run game. They can't get anything going. It could be a good possibility with this, but I see them getting more passing than they are running in this game.
Yeah.
It's a division game, so they're going to play them tough. But I don't know if it's because I'm biased towards Diggs, but I really think that he's gonna have a good game against Bears.
Yeah, and the only other wide receiver, I was just actually looking this up. Oddly, Cordero Patterson has actually had a couple of good games. I think it's because he's caught touchdowns in the last 2 games. Yeah. So I mean, very very deep sleeper, but I mean,
maybe a daily play if you want to play him. But I mean, because they're covering Diggs, and because really besides Diggs and Rudolph, there really isn't anybody else.
There's
so
nothing there.
I think it's just a matter of the coverage and Patterson just being open, so he's just a receiver of that. So hopefully he can. And I don't even know if it's because what his problem was last time was just running routes. He's got the speed, but he just can't run the routes, and so maybe he's just getting open. So I think it's unanimous of who wins this one, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely going Minnesota.
Oh yeah, I definitely Minnesota too. I think they're going to bounce back after that loss. That was a terrible loss for them. I mean, how many turnovers they had, and they were getting the Eagles were getting after the quarterback on that. So that wraps up our games preview for Week 8. It's going to be a tough one in fantasy this week because of injuries and buys, but hopefully you get some good information out of this podcast to get at least start a decent lineup to help boost you over this week and get past this week. Even we're feeling the hurt of this week with that. So I also want to let you guys know we would love to hear your feedback, or you have any questions that we would love to answer onto the podcast. Send us an email at 4horsemenpod@gmail.com. Again, that's 4horsemenpod@gmail.com. Also hit us up on Twitter, 4horsemenpod. And that's all we got. So peace out.
See ya.